60 milliseconds. Their lungs ruptured. 8 men, 0 survivors. No bullet touched them. No water reached their throats. For 153 years, historians got it, break time 700 miles wrong, the kill chain. Today we enter Charleston Harbor, February 1864. Here at the kill chain we dissect commanders' impossible choices. One day a Duke laboratory would explain everything. The Confederacy needed the weapon the Union couldn't see. Their answer, a hand-cranked iron submarine, built in secret. 8 men would crank it by hand alone. But the machine had already killed once before. August 29, 1863, hatches left open. 5 drowned. The Confederate Navy nearly scrapped the entire program. Then its own inventor climbed inside to prove it. October 15, 1863, Horace Hunley died with his crew. The surviving records disagree on exactly what happened. What strikes us? They raised the submarine anyway. 13 men were already dead. A third crew formed. Lieutenant George Dixon, 20 honest Alabama infantry, stepped forward first. Dixon carried a bent gold coin from Shiloh. One day, that coin would help identify his remains. The coin had already saved his leg once. 2 full crews had died in this exact hull. The service would fold without a volunteer crew. Knowing that, would you have climbed inside? Dixon and 7 volunteers said yes anyway. Confederate soldiers and European immigrants filled the crew. Here at the kill chain, subscribe before the mission begins. Their target, the Union sloop USS Housatonic. Aboard the Hunley, the crew began their final crank. None of them knew what the torpedo would do. The Hunley approached on the surface, running lights dark. Inside, 8 men cranked in total silence. A National Archives diagram lists 135 pounds of powder. Earlier 1,902 accounts claimed only 90 pounds. The archival diagram, we believe, is more reliable. The Housatonic's lookout spotted something low in the water. General quarters sounded. Rifle fire opened on the shape. Bullets struck the hull. None breached the iron. The spar torpedo closed the final 16 feet. At 8:45 p.m., the charge struck the Housatonic's hull. 135 pounds of black powder, 5 meters away. The crew had no way to know the danger. The charge detonated. The Housatonic began to sink. 5 Union sailors died. The ship sank in minutes. The Hunley signaled success with a single blue light. Then the submarine that made history simply vanished. What would you have done, knowing the risk? Tell us. The Duke Laboratory would one day answer this. For now, Charleston searched the harbor for weeks. They never found it. The mystery began immediately. For 131 years, the Hunley stayed lost. In 1905, novelist Clive Cussler's team found it. Newmar's search team located it near the Housatonic wreck. 5 years passed before anyone dared raise it. On August 8, 2000, the Hunley broke the surface. It was carried to Clemson's Conservation Laboratory. Inside, conservators found something no one expected. All 8 men still sat at their stations. No broken bones. No signs of a struggle. One theory, suffocation. Another, a lucky rifle shot. For over a decade, no theory fully satisfied the evidence. The hatches were sealed shut from the inside. What strikes us? They never tried to escape. Dixon's bent coin was found fused to his remains. The coin confirmed his identity. His death stayed unexplained. Forensic teams began building a decade-long investigation. Every theory required physical proof, not assumption. In 2013, one researcher took up the question. Her name, Rachel Lance, a Duke bioengineer. She would spend 3 years testing black powder blasts. Lance built a scale model of the exact hull. She detonated black powder charges against the iron plate. She was answering the question from Scene 1. Her sensors measured pressure inside the model hull. The results were far higher than anyone expected. 3 years of testing, published in a peer-reviewed journal. No test can recreate the exact 1,864 conditions. Still, the physics of the blast do not lie. Her findings would soon rewrite submarine safety doctrine. But first, she had to prove the drowning theory wrong. The old theory said a lucky shot let water in. Lance tested that theory in her lab tank. A puncture that size would have taken hours to flood. That's what everyone believed. The math said otherwise. The crew died in seconds, not hours. The torpedo detonated less than 5 meters away. The shock wave traveled through water straight into the hull. 60 milliseconds of pressure tore through their chests. Open-air blasts caused damage in under 10 milliseconds. Underwater, the blast lasted 6 times longer inside them. Lung tissue ruptured. Blood filled their chests instantly. Brain hemorrhage followed within the same second. Lance calculated an 85% fatal probability, each man. Their hands never left the crankshaft. They did not drown. They never even reacted. Our assessment, the weapon that won, killed them. PLOS ONE published her findings in 2017. Their hands never left the crank when the blast hit. Every thread had converged on one final answer. The men who won the battle had already lost. 0 warning, 0 pain, 0 time to react. 16 feet, that was the fatal distance. Modern torpedoes detonate hundreds of yards away. The Hunley taught that lesson at a fatal cost. This was, in our judgment, the weapon's true flaw. Not enemy fire, not bad luck. Design itself, 3 crews, 13 deaths, 1 brief victory. For decades, submarine engineers study this exact failure. By 9 p.m. February 17, 1864, it was over. 8 men went in. 8 men never came out. The Hunley's failure became the Navy's founding lesson. This disaster forced the rewrite torpedo standoff doctrine. Every torpedo since keeps its blast farther from the hull. The Hunley is still called the Navy's first ancestor. Despite a 3-for-3 fatal record, it changed warfare. In 2004, all 8 received a full military funeral. Tens of thousands came to honor the crew, one of the last mass funerals of its era. Dixon, who buried 2 crews, finally rested. Some details of that night we may never know, but the forensic record settled the central question. The crew died as engineers, not as victims of chance. Modern blast injury research still cites Lance's original study. Her work now shapes how we protect living crews. Historians once called this bad luck. It was physics. Belief and evidence took 153 years to align. Walk through Clemson's lab today. The hull still waits. Visitors can see the crankshaft their hands once turned. Their families waited a century and a half for answers. The coin, the crank, the hull, all of it speaks. No monument explains it better than the silence does. The Housatonic's wreck still lies nearby, unresolved as well. Some engineering details of the recovery remain restricted today. Our assessment, courage without engineering, is still a gamble. Dixon knew the odds. He climbed in anyway. That decision still defines this channel's every episode. Commanders like Dixon face choices with no good option. We study those choices so their cost is not wasted. The full source list sits in the description below. 11 sources built this analysis, primary and forensic. History rarely resolves cleanly. This time it did. The weapon that won the war also wrote its cost. 60 milliseconds rewrote 153 years of history. That is the kind of case file we chase. Every hull we study holds a decision like Dixon's. The kill chain exists to trace that decision, not the battle, the choice before it. 8 men chose the mission, knowing the odds. What is your assessment? Full breakdown pinned in the comments. Subscribe. Next, the deception that fooled an entire army.